right, 21 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Our next guest has been with us before. He's a very accomplished and prolific writer. He is Steve Berry. He's got a new novel out. It's called The 14th Colony, and I don't think we got the book, but I was reading the synopsis and some of the premise, I guess, of the book. We'll find out for sure what I got right and what I got wrong. And gosh, if this is accurate, then I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to have some secret meetings in which we might put an end to communism, but it probably would be a good thing, I would think, at least based on what I've learned as a kid. Steve Berry is an historian. He's the co-founder of History Matters, a foundation dedicated to historic preservation. He's an attorney. He's the first spokesman for National Preservation Week. He's a member of the Smithsonian Institution Libraries Advisory Board and a founding member of International Thriller Writers. And his new book, again, is The 14th Colony. Good morning, Steve Berry. Good to have you back on.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
And are you in Sarasota? I'm trying to remember.
No, St. Augustine.
St. Augustine. Oh, see, Robin knew. Robin remembered.
Yeah, you're not too far from me. It's a beautiful day in Florida today.
It is. Beautiful here, too. Is it nice and cool, like the upper 50s over there?
It's nice. It is. Yeah, no low humidity. It's quite wonderful, quite nice.
So is this based on an actual meeting between the Pope and Ronald Reagan?
Yeah, that actually happened on June the 7th, 1982. For the first and only time in history, a pope and a president met alone. They went in a room, closed the door. There's no agenda. There's no minutes. There's no nothing. To this day, we have no clue what they spoke about. But most agree that they probably made a deal that day, a deal that they would work separately and they would work independent of one another, but their goal would be to bring the Soviet Union down. And as I said, we don't know if they made the deal, but we do know for the next 6 years that is exactly what both men did, and they succeeded.
And now both men are gone, and the Soviet Union seems to be thriving again. Do you think it was not passed on to their
Well, what happened? It's not really. See, the Soviet Union is gone. What you have now is the new Russia.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, the new Russia is there is some remnants of that going on there. Whether the Soviet Union could come back again is highly unlikely. I mean, you would have the Eastern Europe is not going to go within the sphere of Russia.
Okay.
Russia's pretty much on its own, in trying to assert itself, and that's one of the taglines we use for the novel, by the way, is that some say the Cold War's coming back, but for others it never went away. And the bad guy in my novel, that's what he is. He's an ex-KGB agent, and nothing. Cold War has not ended for him. And I based him on some real characters that I read about, real ex-KGB agents who harbor great resentment to the United States.
You talk about the AN-2 Russian biplane.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. This is a plane with two wings. It's a Russian workhorse plane, an older plane, and I came across it in the research. In a strong enough headwind, it can actually fly backwards with no engine power, which is quite remarkable.
Wow.
And pilots have actually used that to get to the ground in an engine failure situation. So I couldn't resist that. I had to use that for Cotton Malone.
Oh, okay. Yes, and Cotton Malone has appeared in your books before.
Yes, this is his 11th adventure, and this time he gets caught up in a constitutional crisis with the 20th Amendment, which deals with how a person succeeds to be president. There's a great flaw in that amendment and in the laws that go along with that amendment, and Cotton gets caught up in this whole thing of this is inauguration day, basically. We're counting down to 12 noon on January 20th.
Okay. And as you write, as a historian and as a novelist, do you take the skills and the talent you have and combine them to perhaps take a peek into what might be in the future?
Yeah. Well, I try to keep it about 90% accurate to exactly what happened. That's what really kind of my niche. Keep it as close to reality as I can keep it. There's about 10% I have to trip up, and I have a writer's note in the back that tells you where I did that. But my little trademark is to keep everything as close as I can. And here, it wasn't that difficult. I only had to trip it up just a little bit because I deal with what happened in the Vatican. I deal with the 20th Amendment. I deal with these suitcase-sized nuclear weapons, 250 of which were produced by the Soviet Union, and none have ever been found. I deal with a society called the Society of Cincinnati, which is a real society here in the United States. It's the oldest fraternal organization in America, and I wove all of that together to create this thriller where you're going to learn a lot about the Cold War and about all those kinds of things, but you're also going to have a great, fun, entertaining ride.
Yeah, which is how we know you. When the president of Russia, what's his name again? I'm just drawing a blank.
Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin. When he was on last week, I guess he did some kind of a marathon phone TV thing. He one of the things he said about America was that we have to stop our imperialistic view of the world. Do we have an imperialistic view of the world? If indeed we wanted Canada to be another state or another territory of ours, maybe.
Well, we did at one time.
Yeah.
I mean, we wanted, the early part of the country, we wanted Canada very badly. They scared us because all the British were still up there, and we wanted Canada. We tried to get it in 1775, and we were defeated. We tried to get it in 1812, and we were defeated. We tried again in the 1930s. We put together a plan to invade Canada, and we would have if Hitler had taken Britain. We would have done that, and all of this is explored in the novel, hence the title, The 14th Colony, because it was supposed to be the 14th colony.
Wow.
It was this invasion plan from the 30s was classified until 1974. It's really fascinating what we did to put in place the plan we had, and all of that, as I said, is explored in the novel. But I don't think. I take great issue with that. America is not imperialistic. We're not interested in taking over countries and making them our territories. We're not interested in making them part of us. I think what we're interested in.
Yeah, and I think that's illustrated in the way we handled Japan and Germany after World War II.
Sure, yeah, we don't. That's not American. Now, there was a time in the late 19th century with Manifest Destiny and all of that where we did actually have those kinds of plans. Yes, we did. But that was a long, long time ago. America today just wants everyone, I think, to live in peace and get along. That's all we really want. Is
I think
everybody just get along. I don't think we're not like the bully walking around on the playground looking for a fight all the time. Where kind of Russia may be.
Yeah, and I think even China, even though we didn't invade there, I think they've adapted some of our capitalist kind of approaches and have seen the benefit of having that kind of a society.
Yeah, I mean, democracy works well in certain places. It doesn't work well in every place, and that's where we have to be a little careful. It just doesn't work in some places. For example, in Russia, democracy would never work in Russia. They've been dominated for centuries, first by the Tatars, then by the Romanovs, and then by the communists. These people have no concept of democracy. It wouldn't work there at all. So we have to be careful about where we impose it. But it's not to say that we can't encourage people to be as free and open as possible.
Steve Berry, always fascinating to have you on. One day we'll have you on for a longer period of time. The book is called The 14th Colony. How do we get the book?
It's everywhere. It's in stores now. It debuted number 5 on the New York Times bestseller list, so it's out there in all formats: hardcover, large print, at any store that you can, your favorite bookstores all over and online. And if they want to know more about me or the books, they can go to steveberry.org. Everything is there. Everything is there,
and what an honor to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
One day, if you're in Ocala and you're promoting a book, we'd love to have you in the studio.
Yes.
I promise it'll be more than 10 minutes. Steve Berry, thank you so much. Always good to hear from you.
You too. Thank you, sir.
We'll be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. The Supreme Court hears arguments today challenging President Obama's efforts to delay deporting 4 million illegal immigrants.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says President Obama is failing to enforce a law passed by Congress. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest counters enforcing immigration law is the president's authority.
It also happens to make common sense,
noting limited enforcement resources.
Fox Radio's Jared Halpern. Tremors continue to shift the ground in Ecuador, hampering rescue teams after the earthquake that killed 272. This worker trying to free a woman trapped in the rubble.
She's conscious of what's happening, but we cannot get ahead of ourselves. We have to try to get her out as fast as possible to avoid more injuries.
More than 200 aftershocks reported since the quake. 30,000 will run in today's Boston Marathon. 31 are survivors or family members of the victims of the bombings 3 years ago. Fox News, we report.